Right, so again, put him on.
No, you've got to see some.
Nick, you doing it? You're part of this.
I made put it on 2 planks though.
You made the burning people.
Nick, watch out, you're going to fall over them feet. I'll kick, crack.
Now that would have been funny.
Bye everyone.
Wait, you ready, Nick? Hold on, wait, you've got to stick it on top there.
Oh, it's hot.
It's really hot.
That is so bad.
Bye.
Careful.
Yeah, let's video it then, mate. I think I will be. Stay in your flat. We are coming to get you. Yeah.
Burn me nuts.
Can you go and rob the bottom flats? Look at him, hanging around. Look at him hanging around there.
What's Sarah saying?
Who's jumping?
Here it goes.
No, you're getting told off. Joe, you're getting
I can't hear
her. She's coming. She's coming. Help me! Help me! Didn't it start from the 10th floor though?
Oh, we should have turned it upside down.
Don't worry, stay in your flat.
Cheer bright.
Jump out the window!
Cheer bright. Don't worry, stay in your flats.
Some people got some really bad taste.
Yeah, really bad taste.
Oh, look, it's really
1,
going
2,
off
3,
now,
4,
look.
5, 6, 7 of you.
Yeah, so bad, look, recording it.
Yeah, I think we've definitely got the winner.
I heard that coming, the bomb game.
Too late. You need more than one. God, the little ninja's getting it at the minute.
That's what happens when they don't pay their rent.
Yeah.
Right, it's definitely going to go.
Oh, here we go. It's going to crumble here.
Oh, it's going to go all over the shop now.
Yeah. It's going to go over the pitch
Wait,
flag.
perfect.
Pitch flag's going to get it.
Yeah, get
Right, well, this brings us to our thorny subject. So if you haven't liked and shared the stream, do so now. Make sure as many people are watching this as possible, because this is what I've been waiting to talk about all night. And this is, of course, the issue that has been taking up the most amount of inches of tabloid press here in the UK over the last couple of days. And what do you think would be that big a news story? What do you think would be front page of all the papers? You know, might it be, the midterms in America? Could it be the latest developments with Brexit? You know, who knows? Is it something to do with the state of the NHS or the state of the economy? Things that affect everyone. No, it's not. What is the #1 news article in the UK? Well, I can reveal it to you now, guys. Some people, 5 men, I believe, 5 men, burnt a cardboard box on bonfire night. And this is the biggest news item in the UK. This is what's causing absolute outrage here in Britain, that 5 men burnt a cardboard box. Now, I haven't gone insane. That is the truth. That is the actual situation. And that cardboard box, if you hadn't heard, they decorated it. They decorated it rather crudely with what looked like black electrical tape and some little cardboard cutouts of people. They'd made it look like Grenfell Tower. So this was a cardboard box that these men had, decorated, as I said, rather crudely, made it into a little Grenfell Tower, and they filmed themselves burning it in their back garden on bonfire night. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, many people probably didn't find that funny. Some people will have found it funny. It could be quite easily argued that it was in bad taste. It could be argued that some people wouldn't have liked that. But I don't think burning a cardboard box really deserves to be front page news. But it's not just front page news. You've got clowns like Piers Morgan making it the biggest issue on breakfast TV. You have Theresa May tweeting about it. And all these people are also calling or called for the arrests of these 5 men. And 5 men have indeed been arrested, and they have had their houses searched. And yes, that's not an over-exaggeration. They have had their houses searched. And I think one or more of them were actually held overnight at a police station. So here we are in 2018, and the biggest crime in Britain at the moment, the most talked about incident in Britain at the moment, the incident that the Prime Minister and Piers Morgan and all the tabloids and lots of other politicians are all talking about, is that 5 people burnt a cardboard box. This is where we are. This is the tyranny of multiculturalism. This is the world that liberalism has fashioned. This is the world that our children and grandchildren will inherit, where it is a bigger scandal, where it is a bigger news item to burn a cardboard box than it is to go out and sexually groom, assault, and rape white girls. Because the same police that are so interested in investigating 5 men over burning a cardboard box did nothing when thousands upon thousands upon thousands of white girls were being plied with drugs and alcohol and sold into sex slavery by immigrants. That is the situation in Britain. That is what democracy and liberalism has brought this country to. This country is on its knees. And anyone, and it's very interesting because this year, it's very interesting this is happening this year because this year is 100 years. It's the 100-year anniversary of the armistice when the guns fell silent at the end of the First World War. And we're talking about a war, a fratricidal war, where around 90% plus of the combatants the world over were either European or of European descent. And they died in their millions to secure what they thought was freedom for their nations, for their families, for their descendants. And what freedom do we have? We don't even have the freedom to burn a cardboard box in our own gardens without the police bursting in, without the police entering our homes and dragging us off and holding us overnight. Is that freedom? That's not freedom. This is a police state. And do you know what? And I don't care what anyone's going to say about me for saying this. These police officers, the police officers that carried that out are reprehensible. They are absolute scum. If that's your job, if that's what you do for a living, if you go around rounding people up on behalf of the state for burning a cardboard box, you need to take a long, hard look at yourself. Because I can tell you this, I can tell you this now, people like that are on the wrong side of history. People like that shouldn't be holding their head up high. People like that, they are the lackeys of the state. And if this state ever collapses, I hope it collapses hard on them. Because those police officers, they're the ones that won't go out to burglaries. They're the ones that have let knife crime get out of control in London. They're the ones that have allowed things to get so bad that your grandma can't walk down the street without fear of being mugged. But they're straight there if a cardboard box is burnt. What a joke. What a joke this country is. 100 years on since the end of the bloodiest conflict known to man, a fratricidal war where millions and millions of good men died because they thought they were securing our freedom, and we're not even free to burn a cardboard box. You might not like what happened. You might think it was offensive or in bad taste, but it's not a criminal act. This country is an absolute joke, and this is exactly why the world needs nationalists. The world needs people like the people on this panel. And I know a lot of people don't like me, but the world needs people like me. Because I might be someone that's a bit taboo. I might be someone that people sort of tut at and whisper about behind my back and claim that I'm too extreme. But you know what? at least I have balls. At least I can stand up and call it as it is, because I'm not going to sit or stand with my head bowed and say nothing about this because it's politically expedient. I'm not going to go with the flow because it might secure me a pay rise or a job offer, because these things need talking about. Because if we don't talk about them now, if we don't stand up for the people who did this, if we don't fight for their freedoms, we're not going to have any freedoms. And our children will grow up in a world that is not only anti-white, but it'll be a world where they don't even understand what freedom is. And I say, over my dead body. Well, I want to pass this out to people, starting with you, Laura. What are your thoughts on this?
That was very well said, by the way, Mark.
Well, somebody's just asked, a guy called William Lake donated $5. Thank you very much. He said, was the burning of this effigy illegal under English law? Or was this simply a case of wrongthink? Now, this is something I'll briefly wrap up on this. We need to move on to another topic, which is linked to this. And I'm going to say this. This just shows how vile the police are in the UK. The police have said in a statement, we are looking into ways to charge these people. We are investigating how we can prosecute them for this. They haven't said, oh, it's not illegal. Don't be ridiculous. You know, they've said, we're not sure if it is illegal, but we're looking into some form of legal loophole or some form of umbrella that we can charge them under. And I'm sure they will be charged under some kind of ridiculous public order offence for causing offence, because that's what childish state we live in. We live in a childish state. You know, when children run to the teachers and snitch because somebody said something that they didn't like, they're a little snitch. Well, this is exactly what you have here with this Grenfell cardboard box incident. People running to the state. Oh, please, something upset me. Something hurt my feelings. You must send the people to jail who hurt other people's feelings. What a joke. It's like being back in the playground at school, but we're all adults. We're all adults, and it's not a playground. This is the real world, and instead of teachers, it's the police. And as I said, I find this completely despicable. But what I will say is, it's not out of character for the British police. Because if you thought the British police were despicable for arresting people for burning a cardboard box, for rifling through people's homes and holding them overnight, for burning a cardboard box, well, we've got worse for you tonight, folks. Because last week, an elderly woman was taken and interviewed under caution at a police station for beeping her car horn at a black man. She was at a petrol station and there was a black man in front of her. And this black man, he was taking his time. And that really, really boils me inside. I hate that. You know, when you sat there and you're just waiting to go and pump your fuel, and there's some absolute moron in front of you at the pump, and you're thinking, what's he doing? And he's got back in his car, but he's not moving. He's not putting his seatbelt on. He's playing with his phone. He's getting out his flask of coffee. He's reading the newspaper on his knee. And you're just thinking, look here, jerk off. Drive away so I can pump my fuel. But instead, he's going to take all day and you're in a bit of a rush. It's annoying, isn't it? And I'm sure everyone here who drives or has ever driven will understand that pain. Well, this woman was experiencing that. But the guy who was in the car in front was black. So when she beeped him, some little do-gooder, some politically correct snitch ran to the police and reported her for a hate crime, because they said she was beeping at that man and she was doing it in a racially motivated way. Now, I did a video on this called, I think it was called something along the lines. Let me just pull it up. Sorry to break my train of thought. But the actual video was called Britain's Soviet-style hate crime laws. And these hate crime laws are so draconian, they are so absolutely invasive, and quite crucially, they are so undefinable, or they are not defined in any way. It's all down to perception. So if you perceive something to be a hate crime, the police have to investigate it as a hate crime and are not even allowed to challenge you. They're not even allowed to challenge you. So if you go to the police station and say, you know what, I saw a hate crime. I saw a woman beep her car at a black man, and I believe that was a hate crime. They have to investigate it as a hate crime. And what's more, under these politically correct rules, they are not even allowed to challenge you for coming out with that rubbish. Now, in my opinion, if you go down to the police station and say, I saw a hate crime, somebody beeped at somebody in a car, you should be arrested for wasting police time. Because to put a fine point on it, I don't want to swear, but anyone that goes to the police station and reports someone for beeping their horn at someone from another racial group and reports that as a hate crime is a class A dickhead and deserves to be prosecuted for that and then put in some form of institution for the mentally challenged. But this is, again, the Britain that we live in. This is the land of the free that all those brave European young men died for. Those millions of young men who died or came home wounded to secure our freedom have given us a land where if you beep at somebody of another color, that is a hate crime, and you will be investigated under caution, interviewed under caution, even if you are an elderly old woman. So let's go around the panel. Well, again, we'll start with Laura. She's our special guest. Have you heard about this? And if you have, what do you think about it?
Yes, I have heard about it, and I think it just shows how ridiculous our laws are in Britain. So for anybody across the pond who doesn't know how this works, basically, if you show hostility towards somebody based on race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity, I think the fifth one is, you don't even need to be showing hostility on purpose. It could just be that the victim or anybody else perceives that you are, then that can be classed as a hate crime. And say if Mark said something to me and it was just a joke, but then somebody else said, I perceive that as a hate crime, and then I said, oh no, he's just my friend, it's just a joke. The police aren't allowed to listen to me. They need to listen to the person that perceives it as being hostile. Most of the hate crimes that we get in Britain are public order offences. So that's just somebody using insulting language in a public place. But then who defines what's insulting? I just think that the laws are very flimsy. They're very easy to manipulate. I mean, I get called gammon all the time on Twitter because I voted for Brexit, and you wouldn't call a black person gammon. So obviously that's because of my race. So if I perceive that as being hostile, does that mean that a hate crime's committed against me? It's like they just get to kind of pick and choose what they want to be a crime and what they want to be allowed. It's really weird. But I think people are just using it really to play the race card. I mentioned Diane Abbott earlier. I'm going to mention her again. She always says that people are abusing her because she's black. And it's nothing to do with her being black. It's just because she's stupid. But she always plays the race card. And that could be perceived as a hate crime because she is black. But I just think that the authorities are making the laws very flimsy on purpose, because that gives them the ability to just pick and choose what they want to prosecute for. And there's been lots of crazy prosecutions over the last 12 months or so. Scary times, to be honest, living in Britain. You don't know what you can say and what you can't say.
So if I was to break down into some mad rant where I called you a heterosexual witch because I referenced your sexual orientation as part of that insult, would you be running down to the local police station to have me arrested? Because you probably could. And that is the absurd state we live in. So now I'm going to throw this over to Jason and Patrick. Your thoughts, please.